Welcome to the Embodied Divinity podcast. Today, I have a powerful featured guest, Nuna Isi Ma, who is a transformational teacher, soul awakening priestess, best-selling author, publisher, and founder of the Rise movement. She is the host of the Rise Summits and podcast and has shared a stage with the most famous transformational leaders in the world, including Dr. John Gray, Dr. Joe Vitale, Neale Donald Walsch, Dr. Joe Demartini, Marci Shimoff, Christy Whitman, Hales Dwoskin, and many others. Nuna Isi Ma is a certified in dozens of healing modalities and for over 2 decades has helped people to transform their life story into their life's work, unlocking their innate genius and living a legendary life. Below, you can find the link to her book, Rise, and her free offering, An Inner Child Meditation. In today's episode, Nuna Isi Ma and myself dive deep into the beautiful and powerful journey of what it looks like to heal your inner child as you heal both the mother and father wound. And we get to hear her incredible transformational journey onto this powerful path of spirituality and awakening. I hope you enjoy. Welcome everybody to the Embodied Divinity podcast. I am so excited today to have Nuna Isi Ma with us. She is such a powerful being. We have been kind of connected on the different social medias, and I felt such a deep resonance with her, and I'm so excited for you to hear about who she is and how she became all that she currently is through this amazing process. So, Nuna Isi Ma, thank you so much for being here today. How are you?
I am great, and it's such a pleasure to be here. I'm so resonating with what you do as well. I think it's just going to be such an incredible collaboration in this and other things as well. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I would love to start with kind of a loaded question. So, in my experience with these interviews and myself personally, getting to a place where you're deeply in tune with spirit, where you're owning your gifts and living a life of embodied divinity usually takes something big or a lifelong learning experience. And I'd love to know how you got to where you are today and what really helped you create and cultivate the woman that's sitting in front of us today.
Beautiful question, and you're absolutely right. It takes a lifetime, maybe lifetimes, to come to a place where you embody your divinity and really shine in your light with your gifts, and being of service in that way. And for me, it's definitely started in my childhood. I had came from a very dysfunctional unit of a family. Going backwards, I'm coming from the lineage of the Holocaust. So I'm a third generation to Holocaust survivors. My grandfather and grandmother from my father's side both survived, while all their family has been killed during the Second World War and the Holocaust. And they have been carrying a lot of grief, unprocessed grief, a lot of pain. And I think that was definitely passed to my parents, which have not had the tools to deal with it themselves. And it ended up in a very dysfunctional family as they started to have kids. And I think that, you as a parent and I as a parent, we know that kids come to this world to really activate us and to make us grow. As much as we support their growth, they support our growth. And I think that my parents just could not handle their kids trying to make them grow. And yeah, there was a lot going on, but really the highlight was that I saved my mother's life from committing suicide when I was 6 years old. I physically fought with her over her swallowing pills, and called the neighbors, and they took her to the hospital and cleaned her stomach. She had another attempt a week later, and that's when my father finally gave her the divorce that she was after, and she went to live with this other man, and got pregnant with him very quickly, and we lived with his family, including his wife and children. That's very uncommon circumstances. His wife was paraplegic, and my mother, I have this picture of my mother feeding her and really looking after her there. And her new boyfriend, which later on became a husband, was sexually molesting me. And I could not tell her that because I was afraid for her life. I kind of by default became the therapist. I became her guardian. I, look after my siblings. I raised my little baby sister when she was born. And I became the one that kind of keeps the peace, keeps everything as functional as a young girl could. And when I finally had the courage to tell my grandmother, which then came to stay in our city, she was away for all those years, and she told my mother had a rage outburst, and she was trying to physically hurt me with a bunch of keys. My grandmother stood in between us and got hurt and started bleeding from her face. So it was very, very traumatic. That was the night that I moved to live with my father, and the woman that became my stepmother, she didn't want me there from the first day I came. And that was another story of living with an abusive stepmother. And so I've really had a tough upbringing, and I left my country when I was very young. I was 21. I went on a traveling adventure to South Africa, where I'm still currently is. And I think that's when was my spiritual awakening taking place, when I was away from all that mess in a new space. I was traveling in Africa, and I was in the Namibian desert. And that's where I had that connection to spirit, and spirit contacted me in such a direct way, and I knew that I'm not alone.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's incredible that not only did you touch on healing the generational wounds of your family as a cycle breaker and a way shower, but also the immense initiation you went through as a child to become, it makes me so emotional, the woman that you are now. And it's no wonder that you have such an affinity for inner child work. And I know through the work that you've done of just this powerful healing, I'm sure it gives you a deep empathy and compassion towards others as well, and the ability to see the way we can consciously parent our children's to break these cycles, and it heals generations forward and back. That's absolutely incredible. What would you say? You said you had that big moment as you moved to South Africa and got in touch with spirit. What is your relationship like, and what does that spirituality look like for you now?
yeah, it's really been open to energy that is bigger than me. It's the energy of creation. You can call it God, spirit, universe, really names does not matter. I personally grew up as Jewish, but I always had a huge resentment to anything to do with religion and dogma. And I always I was on the other spectrum of like being a non-believer. And I think that what really got me to where I like to say that I am not a believer, I'm a knower. I know God. I don't have to believe in something I know. And that was really through the work, the healing work that I've started to do. You know, when I knew that I'm connecting to places that are beyond me, that are so much deeper than me, that are really tapping into cosmic intelligence, you know, downloading information that I never knew I knew. Getting all those signs and synchronicities and you know, the right people at the right time with the right message, the right teachers. It's really been a journey. And I think that what really turned the tides for me, if you ask about spirit specifically, was the book Conversations with God, which I received when I was 21 by an absolute random person that came into my house. I've invited some friends I knew, and she was just a traveler, and she came with them, and she literally handed me that book and said, this is for you. And I said, you know, you leaving tomorrow, I'm not going to be able to read it until you go. And she said, no, you can keep it, it's for you. And I think that made so much sense for me, because as I said, I was so rebellious with religion, and that just explained God in a way that I could digest, that I could relate to. And I think that that's where I made peace with God, and started a whole new relationship, really.
Wow, that's incredible. Isn't it so fascinating the way that people are dropped into our lives to create these portals of awakening, whether it's through a book or a word they say or anything? That's so incredible. So since we're on the topic of spirituality and God, I loved one of the things that you talked about in your initial questionnaire was the Holy Trinity within the mother, father, child. I've never heard it worded quite like that, and I'd love to know if you could kind of elaborate on what that means to you.
Yes, thank you for asking that, because this is such a favorite topic of mine, and I have not heard that body of work from no one else as well. In fact, when I was writing my book, Rise, I was taking myself on silent retreats, and I was just sitting with myself, usually fasting and just downloading information. And what came to me was really fascinating. And this is the concept of the Holy Trinity within. So, you know, in our current society, we kind of understand, maybe not completely, but we have an idea that we all have the feminine energy and the masculine energy. And no matter what is our gender, we all have access to both essences, and we embody one more than the other, but we really do have both. And they very, very, very different from each other. In fact, they quite opposite, actually. So, I mean, I'm sure you know, but I'm just going to run quickly through it. You know, the masculine is the logic, it's the directing, the planning, the thoughts, you know, I kind of see it as time. So it's kind of linear, and there is, you know, you can pinpoint a certain, you know, timeline, and you'll find it there. It's measurable. And you've got the feminine, which is, you know, more like space. If masculine is time, then, you know, the feminine, I would see as space. It takes more, you know, unshaped essence, and it's the emotions. It's more like, you know, circular. It's the intuition and the envisioning and the creativity and all that the feminine represents. But there is another essence within each and every one of us, and that's the essence of the child. And the child, I believe that when we come to this world, when we are born, this childlike essence is the embodiment of God. If you look at every newborn eyes, you just see unconditional love and innocence, and you know, there's no filters, there's no judgment, there's nothing. We are as close to God as we possibly humanly can. And then life starts, and our feminine is very much shaped by the first goddess in our life, that for some of us, if we're lucky, she was a goddess, but for majority of us, not so much, especially because of our upbringing and our history, and that's our mother. And our masculine is very much influenced and shaped by our first meeting with the God, which is our father. And the relationship between them also impact the relationship between our inner masculine and feminine, whether it's collaboration and cooperation and respect and love, or it's fighting and constant bashing against each other and empowering or overpowering each other, or however we saw it manifesting in front of us. And the child, we hold that essence from the day we were born until now for all of us, and that includes all the different stages, right? So it's baby, and then toddler, and then young child, and then adolescent, and all those stages that we've been through, we actually still have the memory of it. And really, the inner work, as I see, the most important work we are here to do is to heal the dynamics in that triangle, in that Holy Trinity within. So it's between our masculine and feminine, and how they become our inner parents for that inner child, right? Because the child has its own needs all the time. And as children, we all have very, very similar needs in essence, and that is to feel loved, to feel belong, to feel accepted, and part of a bigger tribe, a family, and to feel that we are accepted. And for many of us, that means completely moving away from our authenticity and trying to fit in a way that is against our true nature. And so that's when ego comes in, and we start developing, growing up, all those ways and means that we, start taking as our own, just so we will feel that sense of belonging and fitting in and loved and accepted. And really the journey is to be able to clear all of that, to understand it for what it is, to see it for what it is, and to be able to drop it so that we stay with the authenticity that we are born with. So yeah, that's in a nutshell.
That's so powerful, and I love your the way that you teach the concept of the mother, the father, and the child all within us. If one of the listeners is currently going maybe through this, maybe they deeply resonate with what you just said, but they haven't ever had a good example of that godlike masculine and goddess-like feminine, where would you say is the best place for them to start reparenting their inner child and to really find that healthy masculine feminine balance within?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. And, I definitely did not have any role model for that. In fact, I had two mothers and two fathers, and none of them were godlike or goddess-like for me to be inspired or learn from. So I needed to go through that journey alone. And for anyone else that is in that current state, I want to say that, first of all, this is your life journey. I really, really do believe, and this is a bit of a, kind of an addition that is really important to add, is that I really believe in the perfection of our journey. I really believe that everything we have been through is orchestrated divinely as it should. And if we come from that point of view, then we already not the victims of our story. And then we can really take the steps needed to start healing. And healing is a must. I really a big advocate for healing. I really think that anything else will be just a bypass. We cannot say time will heal, or something will happen that will make me feel differently. I really think that healing is a must, and this is really the work that we are here to do. And when we heal, not only we touched on it before, but not only that we heal our inner space, which the rewards of it is inner peace and contentment and divine powerful wisdom, which we can then share with others, but we also heal our generation backwards and our generations forward. And so really, if we come with that mindset that, okay, I have been hurt and that was not my fault, but healing is my responsibility. And as the co-creator of my divine life, however difficult it might seem at times, and it is for all of us, really all of us, we have our own baggage and our own journey to follow, and none of us are exempt from hardship, trauma, pain. We just have it in different ways at different stages, and it kind of shows itself in a different way. But really, we all have our own journey to walk, and life is full of of also pain. I mean, this is part of the human experience, and it's really how we are willing to work with that pain. And once we are in that space that we have made the decision to heal, we are we willing to have the commitment to heal, then it's really just about finding the right help. And I really strongly advocate for working with a healer, a therapist, maybe a group. It's really important to make sure that you're going to somebody that is in integrity, because we've heard a whole lot of stories, especially around sexuality. Oh my God. A lot of people are, even if I want to believe they've got the best of intentions, if they haven't done the work themselves, they still living from that painful place. So it's really important to find somebody you can trust, with really good reference and that you resonate with. It might be somebody you trust, but you just don't have that chemistry with, and that's absolutely fine. There's so many people out there you can approach and find those that you feel really comfortable with. And why am I saying that it's important to work with somebody is because we get hurt in relationship, and it is in relationship that we have the best way of healing. And I think, you do this work. There's nothing more powerful than being held in a safe container where you can talk about everything without feeling judged, where you can, share your most, dark skeletons in the cupboard, and the other person can just sit there with their love, with the compassion, and with their intuition to navigate you through those feelings. And shame is really the feeling of being disconnected. We're shameful about things that we think if people knew about, we would not be loved by them. And so when we are able to unpack them in a safe environment, shame dissolves, and this is really when healing happens. And so for all those of you who are ready to start or carry on, maybe you already started, and I really believe that healing is a life work, right? I don't think it's necessarily a destination. I think it's a journey, and it's also not a linear journey. It's more like a spiral. You meet places in yourself, those big pivotal moments, you meet them each and every time from a higher space, from more bigger vision, more understanding. And then it's easier also to cultivate more compassion and forgiveness from those spaces. So it's really about finding the help that you need and working on your mother wound and father wound and inner child wound. It's individually, but it's really also intertwined. And that's where you will transcend it. And in transcending that, that's when you really receive incredible keys to unlock your inner doors of greatness. I really feel that, as a reward of doing the healing work, not only that you heal yourself and heal, generations backwards and forwards, you also gain so much wisdom and actionable tools, because you know what helped you. Now you can hold space for somebody else, and you can become that activator, that either coach or healer, or even in your presence. You don't have to make it as a profession, although many of us, especially those that went through the hardcore initiations, are emerging to help others. But even just your presence becomes transformational. Your energy, your frequency, everywhere you go, people like to be in your presence because you embody that transcendence. It's really, people can feel it.
I love that. I love when you speak from a place of a really empowered witness of not. I love speaking with women like you, who, like myself, have gone through this journey, these several dark nights of the soul, and really this deep initiation, where you don't see people as a victim, and you don't even maybe allow themselves to see themselves that way, because you hold them in their highest while having compassion and love for what they went through, not bypassing it or telling them to get over it, but showing them how to use it as a way to, like you said, transcend, to alchemize, to create something beautiful and powerful from it. And I think that's so powerful. I know you call yourself a soul awakening priestess, and I would love to know more about what that means for those listening. And I want everyone listening to remember that below this, wherever you're listening to it, you'll find Nuna Isi Ma's book link and all the ways you can work with her as you listen to what she says and how this unfolds. So what does soul awakening priestess mean to you, and what does that look like?
Right, yeah. So I went through a priestess initiation program with Leola and Cara a couple of years ago. And that is really when I've opened up to work with ascended masters. So I work very closely with Isis, Hathor, Mary Magdalene, and Mother Mary. And they are with me when I do my healing work, when I work with my clients, when I hold my groups. I move out of the way and I let them really take over. And that's when I become a complete, just channel to higher work, higher intelligence than I could possibly have had on my own. And when I say soul awakening is, I really believe that we having this earth journey, right? We all spiritual beings. We having a human experience, but we are spiritual beings, and we have been incarnated in this incredible body temple, really for our soul expansion. I really believe that our higher self direct us in ways that maybe our little self not always understand, and maybe even not in agreement with. But there is higher forces that navigate our life and our experience. Everyone talks about manifesting. We really manifesting the experiences that we need for our soul evolution, for that growth. And so many of us have had simply forgot why we are here for. And that is, again, because of our life experience, because of trauma. Trauma is really, really such an incredible, in one way, such an incredible growth for our soul, right? Because I really believe that on soul level, we cannot be, damaged, right? I mean, we none of us is damaged, so it's not even the right word, but we can't harm our soul. We can only harm our body, our emotions, our humanity. And what happens in a state of trauma, as a coping mechanism, we either get frozen, so we freeze some energy in our body, and that's when we become numb, or we have that flight response, which parts of our soul literally leaves the body and hovers in the ethers because the body didn't feel like a safe space to be in. That can happen when our nervous system got so threatened in a way that we couldn't cope with, or overwhelmed, and we couldn't really process it in a good way. And what happens is that when we live in that state of trauma, we really are not connected to why we are here, what we are here to do, what is our bigger mission, what are the journey that if we are fully lit on and alive, we would walk. And so I really help people activate that and remember. And I love it that, RISE, which is the name of my book, and I've also created the RISE method. And RISE is an acronym that stands for R, remember who you are. I stands for ignite your mission, because we all have a mission. The S stands for shine your light, because really when we shine our light, that's where God comes through as us. And the E stands for evolve, because we really constantly evolving, we're constantly changing, we're constantly growing, or not, or we right, going in the spiral downwards. That's also a possibility. So so really, if we want to create that upward movement, if we want to cultivate the gifts that we got, because really all of us got incredible gifts, superpowers, in fact. And it's really just about finding what they are. And sometimes they're so obvious that we tend to, dismiss them, or we don't even see them for what they are because they so second nature to us. And sometimes they need to be cultivated through that healing process I was talking about. So we need that journey to be able to find them. So that's the soul awakening, is to really activate people to their soul blueprint. What have they signed before they came here, and are they on that path, or they've been everything is perfect. If that's where they choose to be, then great. They might take another lifetime. There's no right or wrong, but if you do want to be this lifetime on your soul path, and then that's the work.
Oh, that's so powerful. I love it. And I love your acronym for RISE. And I'm so excited for my audience to be able to check out your work and see all of the things you've created. As we wrap up today, is there anything else you would like to share or leave the listeners with today?
Yeah, I think what comes through is really, it's really understanding, that deep understanding that on soul level, everything that happens to us is exactly as it should, and yet we are the co-creators. So it's almost like, if you play poker, right, and you've been handed some cards, of course it has to do with luck, right? I mean, you've been handed some cards, you might be lucky, you might be less lucky, but if you apply strategy, you can win even with the cards you have been handed. So it's really about how you take the cards that you've received in this lifetime, and without comparing to no one else. And this is so, so key, because we tend, and it's human nature, we tend to look at other people's life or journeys or work, and we tend to compare, oh, they, where am I compared to them? And really, I want to invite you to shift the focus and really compare yourself, to where were you before, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, as a child, and look at the way that you have walked and you have accomplished, and really have yourself as the point of reference, and know that you can become the person that you want to become. It's really about deciding on who I want to be and cultivating yourself to be that person. And that's in the habits that you do, in your practice, in your mindset, in your daily actions, in your behaviors, but really to be there, to be able to have that clarity. Just go and do the healing that you need to do with the primal wounds. There are a few other wounds that I believe we all share as a collective, and I would add to that the sisterhood wound. I would add these some other wounds. We all emerging from the patriarchy, so we have that persecution wound. We have those wounds we all share, but everyone, with no exception, have some work to do around the mother wound and the father wound. Because even if you were lucky with really loving, amazing, supportive parents, first of all, hallelujah. But secondly, they still came, they were bred on the grounds of very wounded society, with patriarchy, with sexual suppression and women suppression and all of that. So they didn't even have the freedom, the capacity, the tools that we have today. So you only gonna do them real favor if you're gonna take your journey to the next level and heal what is still there to heal, so that you can level up and really walk your most soul aligned journey on this very short time we have on earth.
Oh, that is so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing so much value and wisdom with the audience today, and just for who you are. It's been such a pleasure to do this interview with you, and thank you for all that you are. I so appreciate it. Everybody listening, one last reminder, you can find all of this beautiful soul's links, ways to work with her and purchase her book below this interview. As always, breathe deep and plan on miracles. Thanks for being here today.